What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Waters, and welcome to Life to Metal. And this is
Rob Whitlock.
Rob Whitlock, you may know as the bass player from Ultimatum. But what do you do now?
I am a brewer.
Yes, he is.
I run a brewery now.
Yes, he does. Bronto Brew, but the name of his the beer place you work for is Star Brothers, right?
Star Brothers Brewing Company.
STARR Brothers, yep. And you are the brewer.
Yes, I'm the head brewer, yep.
So what I thought I would do here is, you guys have seen Robert on my channel before. Robert and I went through all the Ultimatum stuff, and instead of doing that, I thought I would ask Rob to show some of his favorite heavy metal albums of all time. So we got 13, right?
Yeah.
13 albums that are Rob's favorites, so it's all yours. Go ahead and start with whatever one you want to start with.
All right, cool. Well, we'll start with, I always start with this one, of course, Kiss Alive. This
awesome.
album here was the album that made me go to my mom and say, Mom, can I have an electric guitar? This was just, you know, it came out then, and I remember back then I was 11 years old when this came out. And this was before internet, and Kiss wasn't on TV or nothing. They started playing rock and roll all night on the AM radio. We would hear that on the school bus, but back then it was like this was all you had. This and whatever was in you get a magazine once a month that had pictures of them, and back then that's all there was, and it was so, I remember it being so magical, because there was so much mystery to it. Nobody knew what they looked like,
right?
You know, and it was just, you know, and you just had basically that, and then the music, and I feel this album here, the music stands alone. They don't need the show and the makeup and the costumes. The music on this album is just good enough just to stand alone, and then with being Kiss on top of it just makes it even better, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree. So what do you think of the controversy over that one not being actually live?
Well, I mean, I think most of the basic tracks are live, you know, so, but it just has that sound. It just, you know,
yeah,
I
think
feel.
it captures
and back then when they came out, we didn't know that, and it was just, you know.
I basically don't care.
Yeah, I don't care either. It's such a good album. I
That's
mean,
right.
Yeah,
it sounds great.
Yeah, you can't tell them, you can't put on "Let Me Go Rock and Roll" on here and not rock out to it.
Right.
Yeah. They just tear it up. On
even
that.
Peter's drum solo was like awesome on there.
Oh yeah. It's all the whole album is just great stuff.
And then of course you get this. It's always a gatefold, and the gatefold was always killer. All the pictures in it. And
yeah.
I remember reading these over and over and over again back in the day.
Yeah, and at that time we were like, you know. They came out, it was like everyone's introduction to them, then you open it up and it's like, oh wow, look, they got more records.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then you went and you got all these. Yeah, and the notes they had from their characters to the fans, and then of course if I can get it out here, of course the book. I grew up with that page right there on my bedroom wall. I tore it out and put it up on the wall. But yeah, you know, just all the stuff.
Yeah, I remember that book. It was so cool.
Yep.
Then they came out with Kiss Alive 2 a few years later, and it was mania by that time.
Oh yeah, it was. Well, this one was out, and this one was big, and this one was still riding the crest, the wave, and then Destroyer came out, and you know they just went over the top with that. That's when they just went completely over the top.
Beth.
Yep. Are we done with that one?
Yeah. That's one of my all-time favorite live albums for sure.
Right there too, and then go along with that one. I'll bring this one out if I can get it all unstuck from everything here. This one here, Deep Purple, Machine Head. Of course, has the, here, let me sit better without the classic. Of course, you know, everyone knows Smoke on the Water, the classic Highway Star, but just every song on here is just awesome, and it has such a good sound. And the story about that, along with Kiss Alive, was when I was 11 years old, I remember it was after 6th grade, we had just gotten out for the summer, and we just started to get, you know, everyone was starting to get into listening to music, and, you know, and my friends all had, you know, record players and all this stuff. So I remember my dad took me to Radio Shack and bought me this portable 8-track player. Right. And then he took me to this place, we had this record store in the town I lived in, it was called Roy's Tape Shack. And we went in there, and I bought 2 8-track tapes that day. He bought me 2, he let me pick out 2 tapes. I picked out Kiss Alive, of course, and this one. So those two were, I cut my teeth on these 2 albums. Yep. I know every note of these 2 albums by heart, you know.
You probably played every song on there too, haven't you?
Yeah, the first playing the, you know, and then it has all the, you know, all the pictures and the story about it. This one's a little older than Kiss Alive, but
was it 72 that one came out?
72, I believe. Yeah. And just has the pictures and the story of how they made the album, you know, and the hotel that burned down, or the concert hall that burned down, so they had to move to the hotel, and the song, you know, "Smoke on the Water" is the story of that. But the thing on this album is the sound that John Lord gets from his Hammond B3 organ through that Marshall stack. It sounds like two more guitars.
It's so heavy.
Yeah, it's so heavy, and it's just so, you know. And then you got Blackmore, and of course Ian Pace. The whole band is just stellar. Ian Gillian and Roger Glover on the bass. Pictures of Home, the bass solo, Pictures of Home. When I first started playing the bass, I started figuring things out, and I started figuring out how to play octaves. To skip and play an octave like that, and I did a couple of them up, and I'm like, oh, that's how he does Pictures of Home. So I got that out, and I put it on, and figured that out real quick. So that was like one of the first like real bass things I figured out, like a little bass solo thing I ever figured out on was the Pictures of Home on here.
I always consider this to be one of the earliest heavy metal albums.
Oh yeah, this album is it's heavy metal. Yeah, Pictures of Home is just such a great song. Of course, Smoke on the Water, and they're always just great on here.
And I mean, to me, it's like Smoke on the Water, and what was the other one? The Black Sabbath song Paranoid.
Yeah,
so like every band had to play those.
Oh yeah, every band played those. Yep.
Yep. Cool.
Yep. So that one, of course.
That's number 2.
Here we go. One of my all-time favorite bands, a band that I have followed closely since they first came out, because I'm from Southern California, and they came out, hit the scene, and they just blew up down on the scene in Southern California. Armored Saint. And I easily could have picked any one of their albums to be my favorite. I picked this one out just because you know, it's just it's got Aftermath, which is great. You're Never Alone, some of my favorite songs by them. You know, Nervous Man, The Laugh.
I thought the production was better on this one than the first album. It's just a little bit heavier and rawer.
Right? Yeah. This is more. This sound more like Armored Saint live more than you know.
I agree.
Yeah. And of course you have Symbol of Salvation. You know, so a lot of people consider that one of the best albums ever made. So
I do too.
Yeah,
I think it's a great album.
But the reason I went with this and not that, I know it's kind of a sticky point, but Dave Pritchard plays on this one. And, you know, you can get the reissue of Symbol of Salvation. It has all the original tracks they did lay down for it that he plays on. But, yeah, and I actually had this album when it came out, and I had an autographed copy by all of them. And unfortunately, all my old albums got stolen one time, and that was in there with it. And that was one of the ones that if anybody ever sees a Delirious Nomad and, you know, the signatures are on there and he says to Rob, then, you know, let me know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a great album. John Bush, hands down one of my favorite singers. And I've seen them live many times, and they never disappoint. They always deliver. Even nowadays, I've gone and seen them recently, and they still just bring it all the way.
What were you there, like 84, 85, somewhere in that area?
This was 85, yeah.
85, yeah.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah, I saw them on this tour, Santa Monica Civic with Saxon.
Right on.
Yeah, that was a great show.
Did they come through in 83? Was 83 where they came through with Metallica, and in that particular year in California they had to switch?
Yeah, well, I saw they did one show when they played LA. It was at the Hollywood Palladium that night. They did most of the tour with Wasp and Metallica. Then they came to LA, and Wasp had dropped off. There was another band that was supposed to open that didn't show up. It was at the Palladium in Hollywood, and Metallica opened, and Armored Saint headlined the show. They were on the March of the Saint tour then, where they had the nights and out there fighting at the beginning with the intro and all that. And
that's just how popular they were in LA at the time, because they actually were over Metallica.
Yeah, because the rest of the tour, Metallica was headlining. It was Metallica's tour, and that was the Ride the Lightning tour. So that was a great show. I mean, because I got to see Cliff Burton and and of course Armored Saint. Yeah,
David Pritchard.
Yep, Dave Pritchard. Yep,
2 people no longer with us.
Yep. All right, we're gonna go another one. This one's hard to pick a favorite really out of like the older ones, but AC/DC POWERAGE. AC/DC is the band. Growing in high school, the band, we were all learning how to play in high school. Me and my friends, we had a band, and AC/DC records are what taught us how to play, because they were so simple to figure out the chord progressions, and it's like, oh, you can ride that bass note along with those 3 chords, and this, the root note, and the 4/4 beat, and everybody could play their part. It's easy, and it just taught us how to put music and songs together and how to play together and everything. But it's timeless stuff. I mean, Bon Scott, the ultimate rock and roll poet, and every song on this album is great. Every song on this album is great.
If I would have picked an AC/DC album, I would have probably picked that one too. Mm-hmm. Mostly because it's not overplayed.
Right, right, and it has just a slightly different vibe. I mean, it's between like their older when they first started with just basically the 12-bar boogie woogie stuff they were playing a lot.
Right.
It has that element, but it also has, they were pushing it a little bit further, more into their own style of rock and roll, which came out a lot more on Highway to Hell.
Highway to Hell.
Yeah, but this is kind of a good in between. It has both both sides of the early AC/DC sound. And yeah,
We just lost him.
yeah, Malcolm. We lost Malcolm. Yep.
Last year.
Yeah, I guess they're pretty much retired now. I know Cliff Williams, he retired, the bass player, and Phil Rudd, they haven't had him for a while. So, but yeah, it's a great album. Kicked into Teeth, What's Next to the Moon, Sin City, of course. We always played that song in our bands when we were growing up. Riff Raff. I brewed a beer. I named it Riff Raff after that song. And yeah, the whole album. Down Payment Blues, classic. Yeah.
It's not a bad song on it.
There's not.
Yeah.
There's the back.
That was 1976, 77, 76?
Yeah, 78.
78, I was close.
78 is right there. Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
I lost track of what number we're on, so it doesn't matter.
All right, I got my shirt on here. It's always been one of my favorite bands, Blue Oyster Cult. This is their second album, Tyranny and Mutation, which was the first Blue Oyster Cult album I ever owned, which is probably why I picked it. I could have easily picked Agents of Fortune. Both of these albums to me they're essential to me. I love the quirkiness, the weirdness to them. They're good, they jam, but when you start getting like into their lyrics and stuff, there's just a weird quirkiness and a weird like kind of mythology they have going on.
Oh yeah, all kinds of weird stuff.
Yeah, that they keep in with. And I've seen Blue Oyster Cult live many times. I still go see them when they come around. So I just got this shirt last time I saw them. And it's still, it's Eric Bloom and Buck Darman now, but they're still bringing it. And the new guy they got, the other guitarist, he's really good.
I haven't seen him.
Couple toured, not this last tour, but the tour before. We had a couple years ago. We had a big ice storm in the winter here, and they played up at Buffalo Thunder. And we were going up, we're going to go see him. We got there, and I guess Buck Darman had got caught in the storm in Dallas, and he couldn't get out. So they played without him, and the other guy they did Last Days of May and everything, and they held it up. So yeah, but it was good. Yeah, they're still great, and actually had a beer after the show with Danny Miranda and the drummer. Danny Miranda was playing bass for him at this last show at the Isleta, and we were afterwards. I was in a little restaurant there, and they just came walking in and sat down at the bar, and I was like, "Hey guys, yeah." So just talked to them for a second. They were really cool, and Blue Oyster Cult. They've always been. They're one of the legendary bands from the '70s, and I know Scott always is on this, but back then this was heavy metal.
Yes,
it's still heavy metal,
New York Metal. I remember there was a compilation album that said New York Metal, and it had them and Aerosmith, and that was back in early '70s.
Yep. Here we go, another all-time favorite band, of course, UFO. And it could have been any of their older albums, really, but this album here, I just like the vibe on this album. Martian Landscape, Highway Lady. Some of the other songs that weren't like their bigger popular songs that were on their live album were the ones everybody was always listening to. But some of the other the more obscure songs on here are great songs, and I like the way the keyboards. They had a different keyboard player back then, Doug Pyronell, and I really like the way he played the keyboards on this album. And Pete Way, of course, always been one of my favorite bass players.
He's a legend.
Unfortunately, I never got to see him with Michael Schenker.
I never did either. Actually, I never got to see him with Pete Way either.
I saw him. Well, with Paul Raymond and this whole lineup there. I saw this whole lineup except Doug Pyronell had been replaced by Paul Raymond, and then Schenker, Paul Chapman played for. I saw him twice with that lineup. I saw him the Wild the Willing, the Innocent tour, and the Mechanics tour.
Nice.
Yeah, I saw them on
those
tours.
They were great on those tours.
Yeah.
I don't know. UFO is just, to me, they're one of the first wave of British heavy metal bands.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, they're so... back then heavy metal wasn't just ripping riffs and all that. I mean, they had a lot of melody and songwriting and everything that went into it.
There was more dynamics to it.
Yeah.
You didn't have to have every song be,
right,
thrash metal.
Yeah.
It had diversity. You could add in a little blues. Even Priest had blues back in the day. I mean.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, heavy metal basically is blues. That's what started it. That's what started rock and roll was blues, and heavy metal is just a evolution of a form of rock and roll. So.
And the blues had a baby, and they called it rock and roll.
That's right. Here's another. I had a hard time between this one or In Trance. Could have even been Tokyo Tapes. Scorpions, Virgin Killer. If you've never heard older Scorpions, you just learned a newer Scorpion. Newer Scorpions are great. They rock and everything, but the older Scorpions are a whole different animal.
Oh, the older Scorpions are just the best. I'm sorry. They just, there's nothing they've done since then that as good in my opinion.
Right, right.
It's all great.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong, I like it.
they're almost like two different bands.
Exactly, that's what it is.
Yeah, yeah, and this, you know, it's Uli Roth, who's my favorite guitar player of all time, hands down. He's on this album. Anything he played on back then was. I can remember hearing these albums for the first time when they came out, and we're like on import, and I had a friend named Dale, and he would get all this stuff like UFO, and first time I heard Judas Priest, he had like Sad Wings of Destiny or something, and we were like, what's this, you know, and he'd break it out, and he had the Scorpions Virgin Killer, and it was just, you know, Catch Your Train, you know, any pictured life, and it's all just that guitar. When I heard Early's guitar the first time, I was like, my God, listen to that guitar, you know?
Yeah, it's just, it's a heavy, but it's a different style of heavy. It's not,
yes.
He's like one of those guitar players that has, when you hear his riffing or his soloing, you just recognize it not only from his style of playing, but from his sound.
Yeah.
Kind of like Brian May. Brian May, you could tell.
You can make the guitar sound like it was singing and screaming, like it was like a voice, its own voice, you know? Yeah.
Yep. Isn't Hellcat on there too?
Hellcat's on here. Polar Nights. I mean, Polar Nights is great. Yeah. If you want to hear the great Polar Nights, the live version from Tokyo Tapes, where he throws that solo at the beginning, with his wah-wah and all that, that's just great stuff. So,
what song was he playing that one time you and I went to see him and he busted his whammy bar off?
Oh, Flight of the Rainbow?
That's it, was Flight of the Rainbow.
Yeah, that was probably one of the best shows I've ever seen right there,
awesome. He was playing in California during the time when they were having all the power outages, and he just stopped at one point because the power went out. He's like, California?
Yeah.
What's wrong with your power?
He was so cool. He snaps the whammy bar off the guitar when he's doing all the feedback stuff on Flight of the Rainbow. He like looks at it, flips it over his shoulder, walks up to the mic and goes, I hate when that happens.
That was a great show.
Yeah, that's the first time he played in the United States since like 1988 or something, since Electric Sun. Yeah.
It was him and Schenker.
Yeah. He opened up and Schenker headline. Yeah.
And then afterwards they had a meet and greet, which is awesome. And
he's the coolest guy you'd ever meet. Yeah, he's the coolest rock star, but he doesn't act like a rock star. You know, he's just so down to earth and so cool. And actually, we were out in L.A. for an Ultimatum show at the same time, so that's when we went to the concert in Hollywood and saw him. And then when we came back here, it was just a few nights later. He played here in Albuquerque, and I took my wife I said, you got to go see this guy. And it was like a weeknight, and we had to work, so Uli played, and I didn't even stay to see Schenker, you know. But we went over to the table afterwards, and Uli was so cool. He talked to us and signed some stuff for me, and he was really cool.
He's a cool guy. I've met him twice now, and both times he was just super nice.
Yeah, he borrowed your pen, remember? Yeah. He had your Sharpie at
He's
Hollywood.
Like, no, you stand here. I remember him saying it. You stand here, because it was a silver Sharpie. I guess he hadn't seen one before,
Yeah, and he was signing stuff, and he didn't have one, so he told Scott, stay here, I need your Sharpie, All right, Live and Dangerous. Yep.
One of my all-time favorite albums.
Yep, all-time favorite albums. This album here, I was thinking about all this stuff the other day, and I was actually listening to Jailbreak, the album Jailbreak, and I remember my friend Mark that I grew up with, that we learned how to play together. We learned how to play together, so we taught each other how to play, and through high school and all that. And I remember one summer we go to his house every day because his mom and dad were both at work, so we could go over there and be loud and everything, and had our guitars. And then later when I switched from guitar to bass, and then but we had the Jailbreak album, and we would we sat there and we learned how to play Emerald, we learned how to play Warrior, Cowboy Song, we sat in his bedroom, all that. But this album here has all the great stuff. Has what's probably my favorite Thin Lizzy song is Southbound.
That's a great song.
Oh, I love that song. There's just something about that song I love. Yeah, and then just, everything about it. The version of Emerald on here where they're just the dueling guitars between Brian Robertson and Scott Gorham.
Rosalie's on there.
Rosalie,
I love the version of Rose, and the rocker. And then, let's see, Sha-La-La with the drum solo.
Baby Drives Me Crazy. Yep. Sha-La-La, that's Bad Reputation, isn't it? It's like the same song,
Well, exactly, because and on this tour, they were playing both songs off and on, and he was playing a drum solo in about the same spot. Where he's doing, and he does all that double bass stuff. He was a badass drummer. There wasn't a whole lot of drummers playing the stuff he was playing back then.
Yeah, this whole band was bad. Of course, Phil Lynott, St. Philip. Yeah, great songwriter, great bass player, great singer. Just
He became great quick, because when Thin Lizzy started out, he wasn't a great bass player. I mean, he was kind of a more simplistic bass player, man. But I guess that's all you do.
Yeah.
It was a natural talent for him.
Yeah, he probably started out more playing the guitar, I think.
That's what I remember too.
Yeah.
He was playing in. Let me think of the name of the band. It was Skid Row.
Yeah.
He was playing in Skid Row with Gary Moore.
Gary Moore, yeah.
And they kicked him out. Yep. I wonder how you look back on that. It's like, damn, we kicked out Phil Lynott.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course, Motorhead. Again, it's hard to pick a favorite from Motorhead. You know, all their albums are great. This album here, meant a little more to me because I saw them on this tour. It was the first time I saw Motorhead. They were opening up for Ozzy. Ozzy was on the Blizzard of Oz tour.
Yeah.
I just graduated from high school, and it was the 4th of July. And we went to and saw it, and there was like Red Devil fireworks. They had these Red Devil fireworks stands. Place they sell fireworks in California. There's the arena where they're playing had a big dirt parking lot where everybody parked across the street. And there was fireworks stands in there, so it was like World War III inside the concert that night. Yeah. It was on the 4th of July, yeah, and it was wild, yeah. But Motorhead opened up, and it was like, wow, these guys are different, you know. And that was really my first exposure to them. I'd heard the name before and stuff, you know, but so then I checked them out after that, and of course, now they're all gone now.
Yeah.
See the other day how the Motorhead. Page put up that thing the other day with them not there, and there was like 3 bolts of lightning coming down.
Oh wow!
And they were all gone. It was just that hill right there.
That's cool. I didn't see that, but
that was pretty cool. Yeah.
They're all gone. He just died.
Yeah, they're all gone. But yeah, the classic album, yeah, Ace of Spades, of course, and Chase is Better Than the Catch. We Are the Road Crew. The Hammer. Yeah, just
I discovered them because I read something. I think it was Circus Magazine or Crane Magazine, one of those magazines back then. That's where we used to get all our information back in those days. And it was a review of this album. And it said that they were like the worst band ever. So I had to I gotta find that.
Yeah, I gotta see what the worst band ever sounds like.
I think my first album was actually the one that followed this album. It was a live album.
No Sleep Till Hammersmith.
Yeah. And then from there on, I was just an uber fan. I never stopped listening to them. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and of course this is up there, one of my favorite all times right here.
Mine too.
Iron Maiden Killers.
Of all the Iron Maiden albums, people ask all the time. I see it all the time. What's your favorite Iron Maiden album? Killers. Oh,
Killers.
Just Diano. Yep.
Just the whole sound, the whole vibe of this album. It's just it's that right there. It sounds just like that looks.
Yep.
It sounds just like that looks back there. Yeah. It's so good. I can remember. I've told you probably heard me tell this story before, but I remember the first time I went to the record store and I saw this album cover, and I was like, my God, what is that? And so I bought it, and I looked on the back, I'm like, oh, that kind of looks cool, there's smoke blowing up there and stuff, and so I took a chance and I bought it, and I was with the guy who I grew up with, he played drums with us, and we were at the record store together one day, and so I bought that. Then we went over, he was going to go see his girlfriend. We went over to his girlfriend's house. So him and his girlfriend, of course, they go off in the back or whatever, she lived in this her family had this big house. And I'm down the front, and they had a record player stereo there. So I'm going to listen to my new album, So I opened it up. I put it on. Eyes of March comes on. I'm like, yeah, this is cool. And then it faded down. And when it went into the beginning of Wrathchild, oh my God, I remember running to the back and yelling for him, Andrew, come here, man. You got to hear this. You got to hear this. You gotta hear this. I had never heard anyone play a bass like that before ever, and it changed me the way then wanting to play, expanded my playing how I viewed the bass being played. So
and that's how we ended up recording and playing Wrathchild.
Yeah.
I remember I can't remember who it was that wanted. I think it was Robert wanted us to do a cover song, and Rob and I were like, Wrathchild. It wasn't even
Yeah, I know it. I already know it. Here it is. I'll show it here real quick. I know it. Yeah. But back to the UFO one. The first time I saw UFO, this was the opening band on this tour, and that was what really was like. We saw that it was coming, and I had this album. It was right after I had gotten this album, and we see the concerts coming up, and I'm like, oh, Iron Maiden's coming with UFO. Oh, that's great! And they were so good. Yeah, they were so good. Clive Burr, to me. Clive Burr, being a bass player, and there's always a relationship between a bass player and a drummer. To me, the way that Clive Burr and Steve Harris played together, it was they haven't. Nico McBrain is awesome, they're good and all that, but it's very intricate and precise in the play in between the drums and the bass on all the 3 albums that Clive Burr played on. And it's just great stuff. And Diano, he wasn't he's not a singer like Bruce Dickinson, but. He was, for the time and for what he was doing, I thought he sounded great.
That's rock and roll. You don't have to be a great singer.
Yeah.
You just have to have the right attitude and the right sound, and you mix together, have the chemistry, and that's it right there,
Yeah.
Lemmy wasn't a great singer either.
No.
It just
Iron Maiden
worked.
was looking for world domination, though, and they needed somebody who You take them to the next level, you know.
And they found it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and this album here, Judas Priest, British Steel. Another one when we were learning how to play, and this album came out. So boom, you play Living After Midnight right away. You can play Breaking the Law right away, and it was it gave a this album right here was groundbreaking for the sound of heavy metal when it came out, because it changed, because it went almost. I'm not going to say, they were playing metal before that with Stained Class and everything, but it brought it more.
I've always said that they dumbed down their sound.
Yeah, it came down, yeah.
They simplified it a little bit.
Yeah, simplified it and just gave it more of a hard driving, yeah.
It was the whole new
I know
wave.
I'm not real articulate on all that, but
it was the whole new wave of heavy metal, and that was one of the leading albums for that whole new wave.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and this is what really brought heavy metal out into the forefront. This album did. Yeah. It brought that whole sound out into the forefront and opened the doors for all the rest of them to come in.
And really. A lot of bands followed.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is what started the new wave of British heavy metal.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, here in the United States, for it to.
Right, in the United States, yeah.
Yeah,
and they look cool as crap on the back.
Yeah, they look cool. Halford had hair.
I think Dave Holland was a big part of the reason the sound was changed too.
Yeah.
Because his style of drumming was very different from
Les Binks.
Les Binks.
Yeah.
I always thought Les Binks was an underrated drummer.
Great drummer.
He was a great drummer.
Great drummer.
Now, I'm not saying Dave Holland's a bad drummer, but he's more simplistic and down.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And he didn't do a whole lot of, if any, double bass. So.
Right. It's kind of like Scorpions when you went from Rudy Leonard to Herman Ribbow.
Right.
Same kind of transition there a little bit.
Just one member can really change a band's sound. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I know a lot of people might say that's your favorite Black Sabbath album, Volume 4. Again, this was the first one I ever owned. I had it on 8-track, and it has probably one of my favorite riffs of all time, Supernaut.
Yep. Great song.
That riff, that oh man, yeah, that's great. And this album has kind of a weird vibe sound to it, has its own kind of has its own vibe to it. Just the sound and the ambience of the whole album,
Yeah,
Snowblind, yeah. St. Vitus Dance, I love that song. Under the Sun.
And again, much like the UFO you showed earlier in AC/DC, it's not overplayed.
Right.
Paranoid, I mean, how many times have you heard Iron Man and Paranoid?
Yeah. I mean, it's great. They're all great albums. All the Black, even when you go up the Dio years, those albums, they.
Dio years are fantastic.
Yeah, yep. But again, it's like we were saying about the Scorpions. It's like a different band.
It's a different band. Exactly.
Yeah, it's a different band.
Whole different sound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a brilliant album. I mean, I don't know. I always think Geezer is the heaviness in the sound.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Iommi's got a heavy guitar sound, but it was that mix of Tony Iommi's bass. Geezer's bass, yeah. And the drums together. That's what gave them their heavy sound, their bottom end. Yeah. And Bill Ward he was a unique drummer as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they definitely had their own style, all coming up together, basically starting a new style of music, the style they started playing was, nobody else was playing what Black Sabbath was playing when they started out, and nobody else was playing that.
Few would argue that Black Sabbath are one of the forefathers of heavy metal, if not the forefathers of heavy metal.
Oh, yeah. That's why I call Geezer the godfather of the grandfather of heavy metal bass, yeah. And then we'll get this one's in a frame, because I don't know, this is kind of my album collection. It's like my holy grail, but I should have cleaned it, huh?
Yes.
But if you see that, this is Riot, Fire Down Under. Riot's third album. Scott knows, I'm a huge Riot freak.
Yep.
I have all kinds of stuff Riot. I have old press kits, and I collect all kinds of crazy Riot stuff. And but this album here, I have this one, I got this copy. It's autographed. You can barely see Guy Speranza there, and all the autographs of this lineup are on there. And this album right here is considered by a lot of people one of the greatest albums in rock and roll.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah,
they were so underrated, especially back then.
So underrated. Yeah, we played in our band, we played songs off of this. We played Outlaw, Swords and Tequila, and
and it's amazing too because they were coming up so big. They were playing all the big festivals. Something just happened, man. They just didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't quite get the Iron Maiden or the popularity of UFO or those kind of bands.
Yeah, Guy Speranza got tired of working so hard at it and not getting anything back.
Yeah, I guess.
Not getting back what he thought he should be getting back out of it, I think, or whatever, because, he left and the rest of the band went on with Rhett Forrester. It was the same lineup on the next two albums.
Right.
And but then they finally all drifted apart, and I saw them in, I think it was '86, and it was a weird. It's like a one-off show, like in the Riot Legends. Everyone knows about it, but it's at the Troubadour in Hollywood, and it was a mix of. It was Don Van Stiver, and the bass player they have now, the guy who's actually carried Riot on now after Mark Reale's passing, yes, and but he was on bass, and he had just joined the band. It was in Mark Reale, Sandy Slavin was on the drums, and Harry Conklin singing vocals. And, the guy from Tyrant.
Yeah.
And I actually have at home, I have like a little 45 of a demo that he recorded, a couple of songs that came on later on the Nightbreaker album, which is kind of weird.
Right.
Yeah.
But Harry sang on?
Yeah, he sang on. It was like the demo he did about those songs. Yeah, he sang with them, and then that was like the only shows he did with them. I guess they played that show that night and a show somewhere else in LA. But I saw the one at the Troubadour, and yeah, it was a great show. That I just remember Mark Reale just tearing the roof off that place on that guitar. He was just incredible.
And he kept the Riot. He basically kept Riot alive.
Yeah, he was Riot. And he suffered. He was very sick for a long time. He had Crohn's disease really bad and stuff like that, and. He was really struggled for a long time, but he always kept it going. So,
what did he die from finally? You remember?
I think complications from Crohn's disease or whatever. Yeah, they were actually out. He couldn't go. They went on one of those heavy metal cruises.
Oh, that's right.
And they went out with a different guy because he was too sick to go out, and he died while they were out on the ship. Yeah.
Well, that's it. I don't know how long this is probably going to be a long one, but I hope you enjoyed it. Anyhow, Rob Whitlock and myself.
Thanks.
Appreciate y'all watching. That's it. God bless. Stay strong.